Luisa, Vinaka valeu sara Luisa, nana musele nana Gauna mendaro vitalno nikua. Thank you so much, and Malo Pito for giving up your time to talk with me today. To kickstart our Talanoa, would you like to introduce yourself to us, to me and the audience?
Malo Pito, Dr. Tarisi, Bula Vinaka everyone, and Malo Elele, Nadroga Luisa Matatolu, eu marama ni taruku adidia mai lau, au vasu rei sopo tau whahau I kolomotua, e nai anea no Tonga tapu I Tonga Matanisiga.
Sasandina. O rango ni o vakawati and sana Nadroga. Would you like to share that part of your journey, Taving?
Iyo. O vakawati rei Bavu and sana Nadroga. My husband is from Bavu, Nadroga, vasu unimono. He is in the armed forces here. That's why I came to the UK. And I have known my husband for over 30 years. Okirose kalasindo avatasar mai Lambasa Primary School. May Lambasa FSC School, it was called back then. Yeah.
Vinaka Luisa. And while growing up, would you like to share your journey through school from, as you mentioned, how you met your husband from primary school all the way to secondary school and even all the way to where you are now, Luisa?
Vinaka Dr. T. Oya wasudu mai suva. I had an older sister. She's passed away now. She was born in Tonga. My parents met and married in Tonga. She was born in Tonga, and then they came back to Suva. And my father was working for customs back then. He was an accountant. He was an accountant by profession. So I was born in Suva. I grew up in Suva for a few years. I was in vuli. Okwangi Vesonon Nadroga, he joined the Fiji Sugar Corporation back then. So his first posting, nona transfer, transfer in Lambasa mill. To Lambasa. So we went there, and then I started school there. My first year of schooling is always a story that I like to tell people. I was not officially registered in class 1, but vuli, they call it. My sister was she was 1 year and a few months ahead of me in age. So she was in class 1, she went to school. Class 2, osando muri ko chukule vuli FSC, na Lambasa FSC school. Na nito vale na FSC quarters. It was just by the school, and we just had to cross like a little drain and walk through some just like some gardens. It looked like bushes, and then the school was right there. We could see it from our house. And I used to follow her. And then my mother, she used to just let me follow her. Back then, it was safe enough. She could see me. So I would just go, and then they would just put me in class 1. And that happened for the whole year. I'm not really sure when it started, but I can remember parts of it. To me, I was just going to school as normal, but I wasn't wearing a uniform. My sister would always go in the morning, vuli, because I was in Vinaka vuli. I'm thinking, tin bagana kaloko, tin kandua, sangue murchkan. Ongele vuli ngono sale ole class into sara. My teacher, I can remember his name was Master Prasad. At the end of class 1, they had a little bit of a discussion at the school on whether I should progress to class 2, because I wasn't officially registered in class 1. And then I had an aunt there, one of my father's cousins, Lawan cousins. My aunt Indilikoti, Mrs. Rangi, yes, she was there at the school at the time, and she put in like a debate what the principal, who was also related to my father through marriage. Principal's wife, Mastambakivo's wife, is my father's cousin. Didia's idea. So she argued that I should go ahead to class 2 because at the end of class 1 exams, I came third in the class. So there was no use for me to stay back in class 1. I had already done it. Yeah. So class in Rua, I was official. So I was officially in school. I was registered. I had a uniform. So I was going to school. Halfway through class 2, my father got transferred. So we then moved from Lambasa to Lotoka, to the Lotoka Mill. He moved to the Lotoka Mill. And I went to school in Drasa Avenue School, which was the school nearest to the FSC compound there. So it is where most of the FSC children, FSC workers' children went to school. My two of my brothers after me were born in Lambasa. So when we left, they weren't in school yet. It was just me and my older sister. So we went to school in Drasa Avenue School. And Drasa Avenue School, a lot of people will know, it was like an international primary school. It's like kind of like Nandia Port School. A lot of the expats children went there from Nandi and from Lotoka. So when we were there, my sister and I, we were going to school. We were speaking in English. We kind of stopped speaking in Fijian. At a very young age, it's certain things like languages come very easily to you. So if you stop doing something, you will kind of like take in one and forget the other. Because we started speaking in English, we would also speak in English at home. So my parents would speak in English to us as well. There wasn't any vernacular in Drasa Avenue School. But we were only there for about 2 years because I finished class 2, I did class 3 and part of class 4. And then my father got transferred to Rakiraki. And so I finished my primary schooling at the Rakiraki Methodist School, which is just on the stretch before you see Vaileka town when you're coming into Rakiraki. So I was in Rakiraki from class 4, 5, and 6 until I passed the intermediate exam to go to ACS. When we went to Rakiraki, my father, he was on the school board for Rakiraki Methodist. And he found out a couple of months after we were there that the school had put us into, when we had vernacular, like so Fijian, Hindi, and Urdu, like the vernacular classes. And then they had a class called English 2 for non-speakers of either of those languages. So like for the expats or Niloma, like they say. And then so the school, because we had come from Drasa Avenue, we were just speaking in English. We didn't really speak in Fijian. We would respond in English, but so they put us into English 2. And then my father, he found out and said no, put us back into vernacular. So we went back and we had to, I learned Fijian, well, I spoke Fijian at home, but, instruction in Fijian from there. So I did I finished class 4, class 5, class 6. I did intermediate from there. And my sister had gone ahead of me. She was 1 year ahead of me. So she had passed class 6 as well. She had gone to ACS, to Adi Cakobau, and then I followed the following year. And then, so we were at ACS together. So my whole, you would think that I was in ACS, that I was in boarding school. That would be my whole high school experience, because I actually spent from 1 to 6 in ACS. So I boarded the whole time, and that whole time we were in Rakiraki. My father, I found out later, he refused his other postings, like to be transferred anywhere else, because he said that it was the best place to raise his children. So I know Rakiraki very well, like Vaileka and even the language, like the Ra dialect, I can when they're talking, it's quite easy for me to just slip into the dialect and speak back, easier than the Lawan. Yeah.
So darakana rayaw ni Nomuta, you know, nananamikim do nangon, Vinaka.
Because my brothers were quite young. Kitongela kuchuka, or tongela teguvuli mi rekiraki. Or together no boys. There's 3 boys after me. Yeah. So he said it was better for us to be there. So I was in ACS. I was boarding there. It was you know, that was that back in the day in the King's Road. It was 4 hours to get home. It was quite hard for me. Like, you know, for us, when we used to come out for the weekend, we would leave, you know, after a while, when we were sort of like when I was in Form 4, 5, 6, they started releasing the Western girls early. But before that, we used to go with everyone. So when we would leave Nosori, at about, even if we left about 3, 4, we wouldn't be reaching Vailaka town till about 7, 8 at night. Sambon. Yeah. So that's one of my memories of growing up in Rakiraki. But I would always love going back to Rakiraki. Christmas and New Year. It's very small. Everybody knew everybody back then. You know, even whether you were in the FSC community or whether you were outside. You know, we had the church, the Methodist church. We would just walk there. You walk into town. We walk to the library every Saturday. That's the Berkina TV. And when you stand at our house in Rakiraki, you can kind of see because the roads are on the side. You can see us, yeah. So my parents, if they stood there, they could see us walking into town. So it was relatively safe, yeah. Or even walking to church, you could see from the back of our house, you could see us walking up. So yeah, luckily go to church. Yeah. So that whole time I was in ACS, my parents were in Rakiraki. My father was there at it's called the Penang Mill, na FSC Mill, in Rakiraki. So yeah, it was that's to me, that's the bulk of my life in Fiji was in Vailaka, in Rakiraki town.
So
and you know, and boarding school.
Beautiful memories, eh? Auklan ni lebu sarangar na susumya kami Vailaka, susumya Rakiraki na sar chukumengko, na lebu terang ngabir na kilai, sanangon na si ngon lilay sara. Au si rin ko chukumi peneng, eh? Go sa ngon na lebu tu sa vakawati sa chuk sarang kami balay tutok, kapina.
Iya, balata nito tig nga meka, we moved from Rakiraki to Tonga. We didn't go anywhere else. Yeah. My father, he passed away there. When I was in Form 5 in ACS, he passed away. He was a diabetic. He got sick very quickly, and he passed away. So he passed away while he was still working for FSC. So he is actually buried there. The story in my family is, even from when I remember, he was very good friends with Univesiti. Yeah. So they asked for him to be buried there. So he is buried there. He is buried just by the Nembulu, just by Rakiraki Koro.
So you always have that connection to Rakiraki, Luisa?
Yeah. And then so when we had the when you finish the morning, nalubani black clothes, like the morning, because it's slightly different to the Tongan way. But when we had that, navambangin rao, So yeah, that's my memories from then, because I was 15 then, from 5 in Cicia. So my mother, she waited a year because in Fiji, I'm not sure whether they still do it now, but back then the exams were Form 4 and Form 6, Form 4, Form 6, Form 7. So I was in between. I was in Form 5 when my father died. So my mother, she decided to wait for me to take the exams in Form 6 and then move us to Tonga, to where she's from. Yeah.
And how long were you all in Tonga for?
Right up until we came back. for me, I went from Tonga to University.
University of Waikato.
Waikato, yeah. Because I was briefly in USP, but I went as a Tongan student to the University of Waikato.
I see.
Yeah. And my brothers, right up until they came to university in Fiji, or to University Academy USP, yeah. But we stayed there. Basically, while my mother was alive, Tonga was our home.
So when you went to New Zealand, that's where you met Calvin. And
yes, I was the year ahead of Calvin in Waikato.
And Yara, no,
but same scholarship.
Yara
1 year ahead of me.
What about Akanisi Vakawali Tambua, Nambalarua?
Akanisi was a bit younger than me. When I was there, Akanisi, Dr. Adi because Dr. Adi, she opened up our, in the hall that I stayed in New Zealand,
yes.
College Hall, they opened up, they have these halls in New Zealand, some of the New Zealand universities, it's called Hui Maitatu, it's for the Maori experience.
Right.
So it's not necessarily just for Maori students, for anyone who wants to experience living with Maori students. So they did the same thing the year that I was there. When Calvin came, Calvin's first year, they called it Fale Pacifica.
I see.
And that was for Pacific Island students.
And Dr. Adi was there, Dr. Adi Nambalaro.
Yes, Dr. Adi was there. So, and then they built something else it's like an extension of our dining room, and Dr. Adi, she called it the Turaga. Because, but that year, that was 2002, this was happening,
And what did you study at University of Waikato?
I studied communications. I was one of I think at the time I was the only Pacific Islander. I have a Bachelor of Communication Studies, and my majors are in public relations and management communication.
I see.
Yeah.
Was there a particular reason you chose that subject as your major?
Yes, I've always been interested in media, and media and communications in general, and I think just the way that I was, I'm always interested in the way people communicate, like in languages, and then at the time I hadn't worked in media yet, but eventually I did, which kind of like that's the way it took me. I was actually a teacher for a year in Tonga before I went to university. I taught for a full year in as an Anglican school in Tonga called St. Andrews. And I taught English. I was a junior English teacher. I taught, how old were they at the time? 12-year-old, 13-year-old. And then from there, I got the scholarship to go to the University of Waikato to study Bachelor of Communication Studies. And it was really what I would say my field, because in high school, in ACS, I had actually studied science. And I had gone to USP to do an environmental science degree, and it didn't happen because my heart was just not in it. I was just not interested. And I couldn't even muster up the motivation to do it, So I went back home, and then I started working in Tonga. I worked at a little cafe first, and then worked at as a teacher for a full year in 2000. So when I was going on my scholarship, that was 2001. I was 22. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And then after you graduated, did you work in any field, in the field of communications at all?
Yes. When I finished my degree from Waikato, because I'm a Fijian citizen, I came back to Fiji. So I would work and live and work in Fiji. And plus opportunities, I guess, there were more opportunities for me to work in Fiji. So my first job was with Fiji Investment Corporation. Atma Maharaj was my CEO. And it was a fairly new company that it was an investment arm, basically, of government. It was both fully 100% government-owned company, and he was just setting it up. And I started off as an administration officer just a couple of months after I came back to Fiji, and then eventually I moved into corporate relations, which is essentially what goes with my degree. So I would work with Atma on things like just our brochures and our annual reports. For everything from the design of, the outside to the written part inside, to the text, to make sure that everything flows and things like that. And any communications to do with our stakeholders, any press releases, anything to do with the media, I would do that. And we had, any launches, for certain projects that we were doing. That's where I would do as well, and also any communication that he had to do as a CEO. If he was going to do a presentation in government, to on a particular project that we were doing as an update or whatever, I would have to work with him on that to make sure that it's all the wording is correct and it's easy to read, and so it was really, really interesting. It comes easily for me to do those kind of things.
So you would have really enjoyed it, and it links well with your study, and so
Yes.
that would like for our young viewers listening in, that would be a really good advice. You reckon, Luisa, for our young ones to choose something that they enjoy. What's your thoughts?
Yes, and something that you really, that you're passionate about. I think we tend to traditionally, we tend to push people into doing, in maybe 3, 4, 5 big jobs, and we know, like doctors and lawyers and things,
usual,
yes, and it happens, it happens in all the islands. Yes, it happens in all the islands, because in Tonga it's the same thing when I was growing up there. But if you're really passionate about something, and if you're really good at something, don't think that you can't do that as a career, because lately, even with in this season with COVID-19 and the pandemic, I've just seen a lot of very artistic Pacific Islanders, very talented, very, very talented.
That is so true. I just love to see posts by stay-home moms, youths, those who've been laid off recently. And you're absolutely right. There's so many people who are now, doing cooking and sewing, and it's just amazing.
With the advent of technology, use it to your advantage. There's so many things that you can do, and so many things that you can learn. From the internet, you can use it to your advantage. Use it to help you, help you go up to another level. And like I said, if there's something that you're really passionate about, so if you're a really good drawer, like an artist, or do that, find out how, because there's a lot of fields, you could be a graphic designer, now with, like I said again, with technology, there's a lot of things you can be, and a lot of things you can do. And then you have yes, and and then there's qualifications, you could actually get a degree in these things. So that would I would absolutely say, and just go for it. If you apply for scholarships and things, that's one of the things. We can then in the Pacific, we have a lot of scholarship opportunities. And you don't have to go right after uni if it's not the right time. I mean, right after high school, if it's not the right time for you, you want to work first, because some people don't come into university until later. If it's not the right time for you, then it's not the right time for you. Don't think that you have to go after school.
I really like
because
what you said, Klame, when you said the word traditionally, that's how it used to be, but we can change it. Say that.
Yes, exactly. And because for me, one of the things it was stuck in my mind. One of the things I learned was that by the time I went to university, I was 22. Most people would have graduated already, but I had worked. By the time I went, I was adamant that I was going to fly through university. I was not wasting time. So sometimes those things, will motivate you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, wow.
After high school, because sometimes after high school, you still wanting to just enjoy life for a little bit. You're not really in the mindset to go to university.
I think in New Zealand they do this kind of program called OE, Overseas Experience, or
over here they call it gap
year. Yeah.
Here they call it gap year.
Gap. Ko Prince William and Prince Harry, they actually had gap year, so they travel around the world. And I'm glad you brought that up, Luisa, because my son is also thinking the same thing. He just graduated in Form 7, and he told us, I want to take 1 year break. He wants to go to Namosi to plant Gauna for 1 year.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because sometimes those activities, Dr. T, will put some other kind of ideas in their head, so that they might want, okay, so this is the field that I want to go and study in uni, and I'm going to study it this way because this is what I'm going to do. Some people will naturally want to go straight after high school, but not everyone has to go.
Wow, so inspiring there, Luisa, and you are testament to it, right? You were one of those that took a little break, and came back into teaching, and look at that, it opened the door for you to have a scholarship to go to New Zealand.
Yes.
So for those of you who are listening, taking a break has blessings as well. Maybe for Leo, he might take 1 year planting in the forest in Namosi. An idea might come into his mind as to what he wanted to eventually study when he gets to uni. Vakalevu, Luisa. Now, from Tonga, New Zealand, Fiji, and now to Scotland. Tell me what happened in between.
So after Fiji, when I was talking to you about my job after uni.
Yeah.
Tarisi, I lost my job. I have been redundant 2 times in my life. My first redundancy came in 2006 when the coup happened. If you look back in the news, they closed only one company, and that was the company that I was working for. They actually closed it. Yeah. So we lost all our jobs. I was out of a job for a couple of months, and then there was no hiring in Fiji. Everything was sort of frozen. You don't know what was happening. So then I was blessed by a friend that I went to high school with in Tonga. When I went to Tonga, just to backtrack a little bit, when my mother took me to Tonga, I thought I was going to be in Form 7. Yung gilako yani Dr. T, orto may Tonga, orto gitukuna, na watangin nga din vuli o lakani kina, it's not quite enough for me to go into Form 7. Norto Form 7 orto, at the time, they were doing New Zealand bursary. And I didn't like it when I was told that, because it was that my qualifications from Fiji weren't good enough. Because I passed my FSLC.
Right.
So then I did Form 6 again in Tonga High School. Tonga High School is probably the best school in Tonga. The way they talk about it, in Tonga High School, you would, if you're Tongan, you would want your child's name on the radio. Now on the Kinarto prize giving, they announce the top 15 students in every year on national radio, where their mother is from, where their father is from. So everybody aspires to send their children there to Tonga High School. Yeah. So I did Form 6 there. My brothers, they came after me. They were all in Tonga High School as well. But then at the time, they had only one one Form 7 school in Tonga. It was called the Tonga National Form 7. It was a school on its own. We had our own principal, vice principal, HODs and everything. It was a school with five streams of Form 7. It was Chukanganimami building, like it was just a little bit out of town, but it was set up. It's a government school here, just for Form 7. We had our own uniform and everything. So when I went into Form 7, it was students from all over Tonga, like the top students from all over Tonga, because you had to apply to go there. Some people who didn't get into Form 7 went to do USB Foundation and other things, but yeah. And so one of my friends from Tonga High School, she contacted me when I was out of work. I was struggling to pay our rent. I was the one who was looking after my brothers. They had all come to Fiji by then. Because my mother was in New Zealand. She had gone to New Zealand to see my older brother. And my youngest brother, around about the time the coup happened, the riots in Tonga happened as well. Like Cakacaka.
I remember.
Yeah.
The whole of Nuku'alofa, there was riots and burns. Yes.
So then my youngest brother, he was still there. He was doing his diploma. So my mother had gone to New Zealand and left him there in the care of my cousins. And then after that, he was going to come to us. But when the riots happened, she said, get him out of there. So we had to try and get him to Fiji. So I had to do his passport, get him out. They weren't letting people out of the country. My brother said when they took him to the airport, he had to walk a couple of miles. The New Zealand police were there. I think it was the New Zealand military. They were guarding the leading up to the airport. So people who were bringing you kuna sombong cake and get to sara na airport and get. But because he was a Fiji citizen, so he could come. So he came back. So the three boys were all with me. I had lost my job. I was struggling to pay rent. My landlords were very nice. They agreed for me to defer my rent payments so that I could at least just, put food on the table for the four of us. It was me and my three brothers. And then this friend of mine reached out. My friend Carlo, she reached out from Tonga, and she asked, just out of the blue, she asked me what I was doing. Like she was asking about the coup and things like that. And I said, oh, nothing, because I was still looking for a job. I couldn't get a job. So she got her boss to offer me a job. He was a New Zealand consultant, and they were running the website called Tonga Now in Tonga. So, yeah. So then that's my aim when I went to the media. I went to work in Tonga.
So your communications degree again in good use.
Yes. So I ended up living and working in Tonga again. Like after having graduated and come to Fiji, I went back to Tonga in 2007 until 2008. For about a year and a half, I was in Tonga, working for Tonga Now, and I was I was doing mostly court reporting. I was as a media consultant over there. So that's kind of what helped me. And then I came back I got a job in Fiji, and I moved back. So my husband and I, we got married in 2011. So I was working in Fiji. After my job after Tonga, my very last job before I moved to the UK, I was working at the US Embassy. So while I was working at the US Embassy was when we got married, and then I moved over. My husband was then posted in Catterick, North Yorkshire, up here, Igiladi, on Igoli Quick, Igiladi. I moved there. And then before I moved to the UK, I was thinking about how I was going to work, like I was applying for jobs and things, and but that's basically how I came to the UK, is because I got married to my husband, and he was He's been in the army now for 20 years. So, he was in a while here. So he's been all over Germany and Northern Ireland. But I joined him in Catterick, in
England, and then you moved around wherever he was posted.
He went after that. So from Catterick we went to Wales. So I've been in the UK now for 8 years. Almost 5 years I spent in Wales.
Wow! So when you were in England and then you went to Wales and Scotland,
and now Scotland,
what are some maybe similarities or some unique features of those places? What are some of the highlights of living in England, Wales and Scotland? Because most of us watching, they just maybe see it through photos or movies, but you actually live there.
Catterick was interesting. Catterick is the biggest garrison here. Very big garrison, so many people living in there, a lot of Fijians as well. So it was nice to have the Fijian community, like a lot of us. Catterick as a place is in northeast Yorkshire. It's one of the things that really struck me about Catterick was how far it was from the coast. Because as an islander, you always want to see the sea, the ocean. So for we were there for I think 18 months, not quite 2 years. But just before we left, I was thinking, when we knew we were posted to Wales, I was thinking, I really want to see the ocean. So I traveled. I don't drive. So I traveled on one of my days off. I traveled from Catterick to a place called Redcar, as in red car, they call it, which is by the coast, just to see the ocean. I just went by myself. I just figured out where the buses were going and how to get to Redcar. And then I went, and it was really nice. I had lunch. I spent pretty much the day there, and then afternoon I was figuring out how long it took me, so to be back in Catterick before dark. And when I went, when I came back, some other wives, they messaged me and said, "How did you go to Redcar?" I said, "I just went on the bus."
Wow, that's a good lesson we can learn from that, Luisa. Yeah, you don't look at not driving as a deterrent, but you look at other opportunities. Maybe catch the bus, see if the train goes there. If it doesn't, look at other options. Wow, Vinaka, Luisa.
We are, as Fijians, for me, I've always seen growing up, we are very blessed. We are one of the Pacific Island countries that speak English. In all levels, even our generations, we speak English very well. So we know how to read and write and speak in English. So wherever we are in the world, if it's written in English, England, let's say. If it's written in English, the signs and, then you can basically follow directions the way you're going.
So
you should.
Nothing is impossible. Just do it, right? Wow. So what about Wales? Man, Wales, another interesting place.
Wales is lovely. Wales is. I was just thinking about this question when before our Talanoa tonight, Dr. T. I was thinking, how would I compare my Wales experience to Scotland? And then I was thinking about islanders or as Fijians. May we see like we laid back. Laid back, very friendly. And they know, almost everyone knows where Fiji is because of rugby. Wales is a very big rugby-loving country. So I really like Wales. Wales to me is like, if you live overseas for a long time, especially in one country, if you were to call one place your hometown or your home country, it would be the place where you spend time the longest.
Right.
And for me, that would be Wales.
And what about the food, Luisa? How do you access food, that islanders love?
We were in Wales, where we were right on the west coast. Na bono kiro chukukina, okenda raninduri tukmina matasawa, the Revi Island yani. It's that far to the west, and where we were, there are 2 ferry crossings to Ireland. That's how close it is to Ireland. So the camp we were at as well, there was only at any one time only maybe 6 or 7 Fijian families, so not that many. And then, but there was a shop in our little town. Our town was called Hereford West. There was a shop there, an Indian shop, that we could get lavundi, tenauvi. Dalo was quite hard to get. Dalo is always hard to get.
But for you,
Avioka?
a vasu to Tonga, the uvi is, can be a one
That's right. Yes, that's right. But my Fijian side will always want to eat ndalo. Like lovo, it has to be ndalo. So it was, but we had tapioca. You could get tapioca, so it wasn't bad at all. And we had one Tongan living very close there. He's married to Welsh. Okay, and he quando ganito cavadilla.
So you are well covered.
Yes. Kita tungi boleh anggo lebih kuat. So it was. So you still could, if where we are, we try and connect with vakaitikotiko na mataivalu, yeah. So we try and connect with any Pacific Islander in the area. Wow. So when we came, we heard there was a Tongan gentleman there. So then we met up with him, and he said, if we want kava, anytime we want kava, or we want to drink kava, we just get in touch with him. Yeah. So that was nice.
So for those of you who are listening, if you're planning to move to Wales, just listen to Luisa's instructions and get the addresses of your cover delivery and uvi and wundi as well. Vinaka, Luisa. And what about Scotland, Tavingu?
And then Scotland. Scotland, to me, if Wales was like that, like laid back, Scotland is similar to us in tradition, culture and tradition, very steeped in their culture and tradition, and they show it everywhere. Like the tartan for the clans. So that's how they can identify them. The clan, like the clans have their own style of tartan and the color. Yeah. So very, very much like us. They keep their traditions and the dancing, the Scottish dancing. I was at my work Christmas do last December, and there's a particular song, a style of song or music that comes on, and everyone knows the kind of dance to it. To me, I was watching and I was thinking I would really trip over something if I was trying to do it. But this they've grown up with it. They know what it is, what it's called, what the steps are. Yeah. So I can VCCV, like when we have the Pacific Festival, in New Zealand, they have Highland Games here, like the old from before, like not the games from now. And they do it in clans, they have it, they still have it now, and dancing as well, like that kind of dancing, Gaelic, like Scottish here. They still have the language. Welsh is, I think, a version of Gaelic, if I'm correct, and here it's Gaelic. So when I was in Wales, this is interesting for me. It's it was just like I was in Wales because everything is bilingual. Kind of signs. In Wales, it's like that. When I came to Scotland, it's like that as well.
So just yesterday we were talking about the importance of language, because I interviewed 2 teachers in in Mongolia, who were talking about the importance of language. And look at that, in Wales and in Scotland, they're so proud of their language and making it bilingual. And the signs has it too.
The signs, road signs, like the signs in town, like even the heritage, like the castles and things. Chuknadan Rabavalangi, gave Walagungan Scotland. Gaelic is the language. But from what I hear from here, the Gaelic is mostly spoken to the western. Nabunokiro Chikinago is in the north, sort of east. The Western Isles, yes, they still, and further up, they still speak Gaelic. It was the same in Wales. Nabunokiro Chikina, they call it Little Britain sometimes. Bolatagane, Igiladi, in that particular Western Wales. And so you would hear English a lot, not so much Welsh, but as you move towards Cardiff, when you back to the central, the more you move in, when you're out and about in the towns or in the cities, you can like it's to me it was a really beautiful thing to hear, and we're talking about parents talking in Welsh with their children.
That's so beautiful. It just reminded me of Marita Manley. She's the owner of Talanoa Tracks in Fiji, and she was sharing with me how she spoke Welsh and she learned Welsh when she was a little girl, and it was an eye-opener for me because she now speaks Fijian. She converses in vakawati, so it's really lovely to see someone who speaks Welsh and even write in that language too, but is interested to learn the vakawati. So Luisa, for the 3 countries in England and Wales and Scotland, you're very blessed, especially thanking your dear husband for the opportunity of his work that takes you all around in the United Kingdom. What were some challenges that you faced? Maybe just highlight 2 if possible, and how did you overcome them?
I think for me personally, the biggest challenge for me was having no family here, just family, your family support. In Fiji, when you're in the islands, or even in other countries where some of your relatives might be, New Zealand, Australia, you can go and visit them, or they'll come and visit you. You can go and spend the weekend, long weekend. But just that was for me. That was one of the difficulties, not having that family support. But I think that leads. I think the feeling is the loneliness. So it's trying to overcome that feeling and homesickness. So you go from. I was quite blessed that I got to work. Within a couple of months, and then I had heard, even before I came to Catterick, I had heard about the Military Wives Choir. So I made it, I made an effort personally to go and join the choir. And it took me a while. I was kind of afraid to go by myself. So when I was working and I was talking to my colleagues, one of them said, "Oh, I've always wanted to join the choir as well." So we joined together, and then I stayed in the choir right up until we left to go to Wales. And that kind of, that's a combat the loneliness, just the sense of community, or family. So that was kind of my family. We had the communal, which is the Fijian community. We used to congregate with the Fijian community, my Fijian neighbors. We would spend New Year's together. We had the Fijian Bati, the League World Cup was here while I was in Catterick in 2015. So we hosted them, and so we did all these community things together, which was nice. And then in that respect, being part of something, like your community, your Fijian community, and then me being part of the Military Wives Choir. And it took me as well to places, that I probably wouldn't go. I would go and sing in some places in Yorkshire. In York, I went to sing in. it was nice. It was one of the things that I really, really liked, being in the military wives choir.
That's actually a good advice to some stay-home moms who may be listening to our Talanoa today, Luisa. Maybe not only in England or in the United Kingdom, maybe in other parts of the world, who may be lonely. Do exactly what Luisa did. I think getting outside of our comfort zone and do something that you may connect to your own community. That's a really good example, Luisa.
Yeah, or just anything that you're interested in, and is happening maybe in your area. Like if you're interested in sewing or arts, just looking for like some local clubs, because there would be one or an association, like, and that brings you out of just doing the same thing or being in the same place, but and then I had friends here, like I had gone to Sawani with my class. There's quite a bit of us here, but we were quite far away from each other. But one of my friends, she was in Catholic, so it was quite nice. She lived just around the corner. She was in my class, so I would just go and hang out with her when she was free and when I was free from work. So those little things help combat that homesickness that comes, that with the loneliness. That was one of the challenges.
What's your second challenge?
My second one would be, I guess, employment. Just anything to do with like professional development, I guess. So it doesn't have to be employment. It could be going to school, because most of us would be working when we came from Fiji, and then we come here and then we struggle to find work. Or we started, like for me, I actually started looking for work from Fiji, but it was quite difficult. The job that I eventually got, I actually hadn't applied for. They had found my CV on one of those, the job seeking sites, and they had seen my location and they had contacted me and asked me if I wanted to work. And I worked. I've never worked in the bank before, but that's the other thing. Be open to new things. And I didn't think I would. It's not that I would like it, but I didn't think that I would be good at it.
See, from communications, from teaching communications, and to banking. Wow, I think you sending a message there, Luisa, is getting out of your comfort zone and try new things.
Yes, and so that's so if it's something new, if the opportunity is there, I would say go for it, because for me, even though it wasn't in something that I was I had gone to school for, it was a job that I could do. I didn't drive, so it was within the garrison, so I could just walk there. It was just quite near. And then one of the things as well, Dr. T, my job in Fiji before I came here, I was the Tongan translator for the US Embassy. That was part of my job. So I kept doing that when I came, because it's something that I can do remotely. But I did it for both Tongan and Fijian, because I was actually, vakawati was taught to me from when I was young. So I was instructed. Tongan I don't do so much. I can possibly proofread things, but Fijian I can do. So I did that on the side, and then my job made it possible for me to pursue that line of work. So like I would say, I guess my advice off the back of that is, don't be sort of like shut in one particular thing. Like, that means that's it. I can't go back to doing what I was doing. There's other avenues, and look for those opportunities, things that you can do from home. And I was doing that because I was working on not full time, part time, and I was doing that. But now I'm working full time in the bank, but I'm still doing that.
See, So there you go. So the second kilan na ngonisala and talaba may nakalo weekend. Na matin katumba.
Yeah.
I like your spirit, Luisa, that you just embrace every opportunity that comes away. And another lesson you just highlighted there was putting your CV on that particular website that they were able to find. So maybe that's something that we can learn today. There's a website called, is it LinkedIn? A lot of professional people, they put up their CV, and you never know, someone can come knocking on your door.
Yes. So LinkedIn, that's interesting that you brought LinkedIn in. LinkedIn, they say, is the Facebook for professional people.
Wow.
But it's actually for anybody, but if you put your professional profile there, because it's like when you go now to go and interview and things like that, you can just drop a link there that this is your CV in LinkedIn, and they can read and write about, read everything about you and your experiences and things like that. But the LinkedIn, for me, my profile on LinkedIn is as a translator, and that's where I get most of my work.
Wow.
From LinkedIn. Yeah.
Wow, I really like hearing from you. You have your paternal links to Fiji, so you kind of take charge of your vakawati, vakaitikotiko, and then you got your vasu to Tonga. And I'm sure there will be those who are listening in today who are of mixed heritage. I think the lesson here is embrace your heritage.
Embrace it.
Be proud of whatever heritage you have.
Yes, and we can exist. There's a lot of, our Pacific Islanders, mixed heritage, coming now, and I would say just be proud of where you're from, even as Fijians, when I went to university, I was really proud to be a Pacific Islander, and to exist in that space and be Pacific Islanders. There's a lot of people that they like the Pacific Islands, they like our country, they wish they could live there, and the fact that we speak a different language, some people just speak one language, so embrace it all, what sets you apart.
And being unique is special.
Being unique is special, yes. Yeah.
Vinaka Luisa. Sa totokan din na Talanoa, and there's so much gems that those who are listening and even myself can learn from you. To conclude with our Talanoa today, Luisa, are there any other advice or comments or any other particular memory or anything that you want to say to end our Talanoa today? I don't want it to end because it's so beautiful to hear all your stories from England to Wales to Scotland, and it's so empowering, and I think those who are listening will learn so much from our Talanoa.
Just a couple of things I was thinking about. I think for us who live overseas, especially in the UK, I know with travel restrictions at the moment, but when you have the opportunity to come and show members of your family the place that you live in, this is a unique opportunity. Some of us might not actually live here. We might go back to Fiji, but while we're here, and your family members come, we had the opportunity. We were really blessed last year. My brother was here and my husband's brother was here. So my brother-in-law was here as well at the same time, and the times that they were here overlapped. So it was a really nice time for us to have immediate family, because it's very rare. If you don't, if you're just here on your own, none of your immediate family is close by, it's a really nice thing to have. And a couple of years ago, we brought my father-in-law to come and have a look at some places around here. My husband brought him all the way. This is prior to us moving here. Fiji played Scotland in Edinburgh, so they came all the way here. 2018, my husband brought him to the game to Edinburgh, and they came all the way here to Inverness so he could see where my husband was coming for his next posting, because he was leaving in December and we moved up in January.
So you must have really enjoyed it, Luisa?
Yes, he's just the scenery. Scotland, Wales and Scotland are two very different countries. Even just the scenery. Where we were in Wales, a lot of beaches, nice beaches, western side. And here there's a lot of just nice forests and walks, like nature walks. And I am in the place at this is the home of Loch Ness and the Loch Ness monster. That's where we are at the moment here. But these things we read about, we just watch on TV and movies. So if you have the opportunity to bring your parents, if you have the opportunity and the means, then by all means do it. So they can come and share, however brief it is. And just for those who are maybe other wives out there of the new, because there's some new recruits coming in now, and those who are married, their wives are planning to come in. Just don't be afraid to ask people even if someone is here, ask me a question if you can find me on Facebook about anything about moving here. If you've got any questions, don't be afraid to ask. Do research and always think creative. I think in this time, Dr. T, with COVID restrictions, we are all having to be creative, creative about everything. Creative about gathering, creative about getting in touch with our families and things. So let's see. And we are a creative people. Pacific Islanders, we're creative people. So we have ideas and things that we can do when you move to the UK. You can get in touch with us. I am also part of Marama Alliance UK.
Yes, I was going to ask you if you want to do a plug of that, Kerber.
Yeah, so Marama Alliance UK was set up to empower women with and for me, when I use the word empower, it means to give women the tools that so that they can do things for themselves. Tools meaning information, so don't be afraid to ask. Get in touch with Marama Alliance UK for those who might be watching this, who are in Fiji planning on coming. And there's a lot of opportunity here. So if you're thinking about, how am I going to get work, or there's a lot of opportunity. So also for the younger people, I guess, from my experiences from university and things like that, I would just say embrace your culture, be proud of who you are, your identity, speak your language as much as you can. I used to one experience in Waikato, Dr. T. I would be hanging around. The Fijian students would be here, the Tongan students would be here. I would speak in Fijian here, turn around and speak in Tongan to the Tongan students. It was a really nice place for me to exist in both my cultures, because we celebrate Pacific Islanders so much. Embrace it. Don't be afraid to speak your language, wear your costumes, na chamba and bright, loud colors. When I graduated from Waikato, I must say I was not very nice to my Tongan side, because for me, my whole experience was I have a lot of Tongan family and things in New Zealand. So when I graduated, and my father wasn't there, he had died a few years back. So I was thinking, man, I need a part of Fiji to be with me. So I wore the salu, just to claim my Fijian identity, because most of the time I existed there as a Tongan. So just little things that that you can bring into your personality. Over here on the Ledakavaka, on the Vatikiteki, no one questions me about the Teki, that's just who I am. Everyone knows that's like a Pacific Islander thing. And people ask me where I'm from, Fiji. A lot of people know where Fiji is, but there might be some people that don't know. So I always love to explain where Fiji is, what Fijians are, and what they're doing here.
Luisa, toka saranga Yeah, and I think some of the key points you mentioned there: embrace your identity and wear it loud and proud. Maybe, yeah, that's the kind of a statement I hear a lot in New Zealand. And embrace both cultures. If you are of mixed heritage, do exactly what Luisa is doing. Speak Fijian this side, turn around, speak Tongan on either side, and that's a really wonderful way of balancing your heritage. Wow. And I think your plug on the Marama Alliance, UK, because I went through your page yesterday and I noticed a lady from Fiji who is a nurse in Fiji and who's going to join her husband in the UK, was wanting to know the procedure of how she can be a nurse when she gets to the UK. And, I smiled and I was so happy to see that. And that's kind of like a benefit of, knowing these pages, knowing this network, because it answers those questions for you. So don't be afraid. Never be afraid to ask. Yeah. So one last word, Luisa, before we officially conclude.
Just thank you. I wanted to just thank you very much for having me on your Talanoa platform, Dr. T. I didn't actually expect that you would invite me. Something funny, my brother said to me, I am, because we don't have any children, but I am trying to orally record an oral history for my nephews and nieces. And then I was saying that I was going to, I tell my story. And I have a brother in Switzerland, and he said, and he went like this to me: "Who will want to listen to your story?"
Look, the whole world is listening. Tell your brother.
So I just wanted to thank you very much, and thank you for all of the Talanoa sessions that you've been having, which has been really eye-opening to us and broadening our horizons. And I hope my Talanoa session with you this morning to you, would be of some advantage to whoever's listening, whether it's young people and or wives who are about to come here, or just other mixed heritage Pacific Islanders. I want to thank you, and and I want to thank God for the opportunity as well for me to be here with you on this platform.
Nakavalevu Sara Luisa. Vaviri vinakasarvalevu veiko Luisa namsulena namungona. And also I can't forget to also thank your dear husband, my Bavu from Nadroga, for allowing you to sit on this platform and giving you tips on what to say and all of that. It was really nice of him. So that's one thing I like about this platform, is to empower, and that's a word that you also used. Also a platform of enlightenment, platform of, I think, just rethinking and resetting our minds on how to do things better in this day and age. We can compare and contrast how we started our Talanoa. We look back in the day of your growing up in Rakiraki and Lambasa and moving back to Tonga, and now we fast forwarding it up to 2020 and making things relevant, and making things be user friendly to us as Fijians, as Pacific Islanders today. Yes, so on behalf of the Talanoa with the Dr. T team, Vinaka vakalevu, Malo Luisa, for your time.
Vinaka.